I guess if you're thinking about the meta of what's going on out there in the economy, it's not that Zillow owns everything, right? Like if you actually add up all the traffic to all the Real Geek sites, that's more traffic than goes to Zillow, right?
Sure.
But it's atomized, right? Like it's sort of for the agents. So I would probably agree. I would probably like, yeah, Zillow being a monster or one of the portals, and I want to ask you about the portal wars here. Might be able to get like a dominant position, but I think as long as Google exists and as long as they're not like doing their own thing or hyper favoring one site, there's room for competition there. So yeah, I'll let you react to that, and then I'm going to ask you about Zillow versus Homes.com. This seems relevant.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the fact that Google hasn't built some sort of real estate portal into their search engine is a little surprising. I would assume that's an intentional thing. I'm obviously they've thought about it, and for some reason they haven't dipped their toe specifically into that water. Just because I think for regulatory issues they would have to get compensated in some way, and it would likely just. Although I don't know. I mean, maybe not. Maybe they become a lead gen company like Zillow and start just sell leads to realtors, or who knows. But could Google
Well, let's riff on this here for a second, because this is an interesting question. Why hasn't Google done this? And it kind of strikes me that it's not their core business. Like their core business is really like aggregating information and making it available. So if there's a feed they can consume or a bunch of feeds that they can consume, then yeah. So, maybe I'm trying to almost like think about this, like, how does podcasting work? And it's sort of like you use your one client to look at multiple feeds.
Yeah.
And so the question becomes like, where are you listing? And so are you going to list your property site rather than with one MLS? Like you have a feed that you put out there into the world that gets picked up by multiple aggregators, or are you submitting it to multiple sites and it gets out that way? Or there's callbacks to your site, or there probably is room for some technology disruption in there.
I agree. I think if we look at the Google Flight, which used to be called Google Flight Matrix, now is called I think it's flights.google.com. Anyway, now they have basically taken what Expedia and Travelocity sort of pioneered and said, oh, we can just do that right on our search engine, and we can get a little spiff on every time, just like Travelocity or Expedia does. And I would suspect that Google Flights is probably the number one player in that space right now. And all they had to do was aggregate all those feeds, create relationships with those, airlines, and then just work out some sort of compensation agreement. And I suspect there's probably even flights that they aren't compensated on, but Google just says, well, we got to have them all in there if we expect people to use our stuff. So I suspect not everyone, they probably aren't even getting a commission on every sale, on every flight that they're selling, but I use it every single time. So is there a room for a disruptor that comes and says, we're going to aggregate all the listings. We're going to figure out a compensation model. Maybe it's advertising, which is, obviously Google's, that's their primary mode of generating income is through advertising. So could they just put it all up for free and then pay, have ads? Sure. 100%. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Can they aggregate all these non-MLS sources and possibly even MLS sources and put it together, and it ceases to be really a closed system, meaning that a buyer can more easily get access to a property without having to pay a buyer's agent? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. This is interesting stuff. This is fun to think about. I'd probably say to people at this point, there's probably the portal proponents out there. They're like, oh, whatever's going to happen is going to happen really fast. And in the long geologic span of history, it seems like that happens. But if you really think back onto remember HD DVDs, they were battling it out with Blu-rays for a while, and so the technology is going to take a while to settle down. I guess I tend to think that the MLSs probably won't go anywhere immediately. They'll probably need to open up. I think that, but I think at the same time, it's like, it's hard to imagine that if government, in sort of this big blobular sense, which I don't think there's any sort of one direction that entity has, is going for more consumer protection, that all of a sudden it would they would enable a monopoly, being Zillow or one of the other portals to then just own the market. That doesn't like strike me as the right, direction.
Yeah, I agree. And also too, you never really want, obviously as a business, you never want one business controlling the vast majority of any market because they can continue to grow. I mean, I love Amazon. I'm an Amazon customer and I'm not in any way criticizing them for growing, but how many people have they hooked to, I had to order something. My car my battery was dead this morning, cause I left something on and I was like, oh shoot, I need to figure out how I'm getting a jump. And it was in this spot where I couldn't easily get jumped. So I was like, I'm going to order a portable jumper and it already got delivered, 5 hours later. And it was $100. And how does a mom and pop store locally to me? And I live in the city. I live amongst all this great local stuff in Chicago and retailers. And I went straight to Amazon and I bought it. Should I have? No, I would have, but it would have been better for my community if I went to the local auto parts store and said, hey, I'll buy it from you guys. But I was in a rush and I needed it. It's so attractive to do that. And that's where I think the worry becomes about somebody like a Zillow who bought Trulia, certainly other websites too. And again, I like Zillow. I think Zillow is actually a really cool company. I just think we have to figure out how big is too big and when does it start to actually hurt the consumer because other players are having a hard time getting a foothold.
Well, and Zillow's got competition, right? There were some Super Bowl ads, so, got any hot takes on the portal wars? They seem like they're, heating up.
Yeah, they're heating up. Zillow is still clearly in first place. And so Zillow did such a great job of branding. And I'll say I've toured the Zillow offices. I've been lucky enough to visit with some of their senior leadership and just kind of learn how'd you guys do this? And they really, the brilliance of Zillow was just, we are all about the customer experience. Buying a home is hard. And we wanted to figure out what do customers actually want and what's the easiest way for them to get to this information. And that was a little bit of a shift from before of let's just put all the information up on a website, sort of, we're going to tweak it as best we can for user experience. But Zillow, it tracks everything. And so they just have more data than everyone. So they can make better user experience decisions because they have better data because they're the big player. So I worry that they're just going to continue. Now, again, everything's got a lifespan too, right? Companies come and go. Somebody might disrupt the industry with a brand new technology that's even better. For example, I'm excited, with this, the 5G sort of promise has not really come true yet, where I'd love to see faster in access to information. I'd love to see things like heads up displays inside of cars, whereas you drive down a street, up on your windshield is pricing or whatever, showing you, in this augmented reality scenario. That should be here by now. And it's not. Eventually we'll get there. So I'm excited to see what's next, but I think access to information has to improve as speed. Speed has to improve because right now it takes just a few too many steps. And I know it sounds silly to think it takes steps because you just go to a website and start searching. But the reality of it is I think that can be improved and there can start to be companies in AI, I think will help with this. They'll start to create avatars of people and really, checking their behavior and kind of who they are and have so much access to who you are as a person that they can start to suggest things to you that are actually accurate. And I'm hopeful we're sort of seeing some of that anyway now.
This episode of Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. Real Geeks is the all-in-one real estate sales and marketing technology platform that is designed to make real estate professionals more efficient. New for 2024, Real Geeks has 4 packages. The base package, which is the same platform that everyone's used to that starts at $299, as well as 3 packages that include leads. So if you're looking to upgrade your technology and get leads, we've got something for everyone. All of the packages include SEO Fast Track, which is Real Geeks' AI-enabled SEO tool, which builds out long-tail, programmatically driven AI content for your listing pages. Data coming off this has been great in terms of generating long-tail traffic for our customers. You want to check this out? Head over to realgeeks.com and tell them that you saw us on Keeping It Real.